This part becomes the side view. When we look from below like this, we need to draw. This is supposed from an angle that we do not easily see, right? Hello, this is Jomeng. In this session, we will study the tilt and angle when drawing the ribcage and pelvis. I have often said that when I draw the ribcage, I draw it as an ellipse like this. But if I draw this ellipse like this and then add the shoulders on both sides, this view becomes the human body seen from a horizontal level. However, if I draw the same ellipse, draw the top part of the ellipse like this, and also draw the area where the neck will go. And draw the side view like this as well. This ellipse, the ribcage, becomes the view from above. So this ellipse can change into many different angles. If you want to draw the view from below, draw one line like this, and draw the indented area of the ribcage, then draw the clavicle and shoulders to match this. The side view will appear naturally. When you draw the pelvis to match this time we can draw this first ellipse as the view from below. However, most beginners find it difficult to draw this ellipse applied to so many different angles. That is why many people use a box. Because with a box, anyone can easily tell that it is the view from above. But if you try drawing while looking at real photos, you will realize that placing the box in the correct position on the human body is quite difficult. Of course, it is a good method when studying three-dimensional form. But you have probably felt how hard it is to apply this box to actual photos. So I prefer to draw the ribcage using an ellipse like this. And if you also show a slightly indented shape on the ellipse, it becomes the form of the ribcage. After drawing the same ellipse, if you add the bottom surface like the view from below that I showed earlier, it becomes the ribcage seen from below. In the end, you can express every angle with this first ellipse. Next, let us draw the pelvis. For the pelvis, I also start with an ellipse. The reason I use an ellipse is because it is the most intuitive way to learn the proportions of the pelvis size. No matter how well I can express three-dimensional form, if I draw the pelvis box too small or too large, it will be wrong. So we first study the overall proportion of the size. The simplest way is to roughly set the size with an ellipse. Once you think the size is correct, then you start adding the detailed depiction inside it. When drawing the pelvis, the iliac crest at both ends of this square becomes an important part in terms of position. The slightly protruding part is very characteristic. That is why we usually determine the tilt of the pelvis using this line. But if you look at most beginner lectures on drawing the human body, they are almost always standing poses. Or even if the pelvis is slightly tilted, they mostly draw it from a horizontal view. In that case, it is easy to understand and easy to follow. However, when we draw the human body, we will not only draw this kind of pose. Just by lowering the head, you will realize that the upper body needs to be drawn in a completely different way. In this session, let us practice this again together while looking at photos. Let me draw this pose once. I rarely draw directly on top of the photo, but To help your understanding, I will draw on top of this photo and explain. I draw an ellipse. It does not matter if it has three-dimensional form or not. For now, I only think about the proportion of the size and draw the upper body as an ellipse like this. And if you think the upper part of the body is visible, draw the clavicle a little lower. Then this part becomes the upper part of the upper body. You can also draw the area where the neck will go like this. Next, I draw the center line. This center line refers to the center line of the rib cage from the clavicle. Then the indented area becomes this part, right? Even if we do not draw it, this part naturally becomes the side view. And when the upper body and lower body connect and twist or rotate, what you need to know is that the rib cage itself does not bend. The body appears to bend because of the movement of the shoulders or the pelvis, excluding the rib cage. Let me draw the shoulders. The left shoulder is not fully visible and is slightly hidden by the upper body. Now I draw the breast contour. And I will also draw the face simply. So far I have drawn the upper body. Now let us draw the waist area. If this were a horizontal view, I would leave some space and then draw the pelvis like this. But because this is a slightly top-down view, the circle I drew at the waist also moves higher. What this means is, we use a circle to show the empty space at the waist, but the circle moves upward, so this part is hidden and not visible. Next, let us draw the pelvis at the bottom. Normally the pelvis should be drawn around this position, but because we are looking from above, the pelvis appears overlapped like this. So this part is the upper part of the pelvis. After deciding the size and position, you can draw the pelvis as a box. Let me turn off the reference layer and take a look. And the tilt of the pelvis can sometimes be difficult to judge from the photo. If you find the starting point of the leg lines, you can infer the slightly protruding iliac crest. On the right leg, it connects like this. So this becomes that part. The position of these 2 points becomes the characteristic part of the pelvis. Then the tilt would look like this shape. If you draw it as a box while thinking not only about the tilt but also the angle, it will look like this. When drawing the pelvis as a box, I need to give some additional explanation. When we draw the pelvis like this, we usually think that the legs only attach to the bottom of the pelvis box. But if you imagine this person lifting the leg up to this height with the knee raised, the thigh line will come up higher than the bottom of the pelvis box. It looks roughly like this. So when I draw the legs, I imagine this. Even though it is not visible, I mentally imagine a panty line or underwear line. Sometimes this line goes even higher. Because depending on how high the leg is raised, the thigh comes up higher than the panty line. I draw while thinking of this imaginary line. Of course, from a horizontal view, this line would not be very visible. But when a person lifts the leg high, the thigh comes up to this line. Even in the view from below, if you think the leg only connects to the bottom of the pelvis box, it would look like this. But because the leg can be lifted forward, I first draw this line and then draw the thigh starting from this line. Then the thigh line comes up to this point. And this line also affects the side. When the leg is extended to the side, it comes up to the middle of the pelvis box. So when drawing legs, you should remember that they are not just attached to the bottom of the square pelvis box, but can move flexibly. It is good to keep this kind of line in mind. You can draw the legs on the side of the pelvis box while thinking of this line as well. At this angle, the bottom of the pelvis box will not be visible. The right leg is slightly forward, so you can draw the leg following this panty line like this. This cylindrical shape means the leg is pointing slightly forward, and the left leg goes straight down and points toward the back. After drawing the knee, draw the calf that points slightly forward. The left calf is hidden behind the thigh, so only the foot is visible like this. For the arms, try drawing them using cylinders like this. Then it will look like this. Now you can finish by adding the waistline and cleaning up the overall outer lines. Of course, if you draw directly on top of the photo, you will be able to copy it exactly. So I will not draw on the photo and will draw it separately again. This is a review. First, do not overthink it and simply draw an ellipse that matches this tilt. Then, if it feels like we are looking from above, find the position of the clavicle and draw it, and also draw the area where the neck begins. And recognize that these parts are the upper part of the rib cage. Next, draw the center line like this, and also draw the slightly indented area. Then the waist is mostly hidden behind the rib cage, so it is not very visible. The pelvis is also mostly hidden. I will draw the waistline later and think about the upper part of the pelvis and draw it as a box. At this point, you can find the protruding part of the pelvis and decide the tilt, right? Next, draw the leg that is pointing slightly forward and draw the left leg pointing toward the back. Now, let us think about the side part of the rib cage. The fact that this center line, starting from the clavicle, is not located at the exact center of the ellipse means that the side part is visible. Draw the shoulder here, and the left shoulder is behind the upper body. When drawing the arm, if it is hard to feel whether the arm is pointing forward, or if it is difficult to understand visually, you can erase the bottom part of the circle you drew for the shoulder to make a more three-dimensional cylinder shape. I will also draw the face simply. For beginners, it is probably difficult to draw the human body cleanly with a pencil from the beginning. This is because it is hard to understand these three-dimensional parts. you study a lot of anatomy when learning the human body. But actually, in what I just drew, there is almost no anatomy shown. I only used cylinders, ellipses, and boxes. Then in which parts is anatomy needed? Look carefully at the joint areas. The area where the shoulder and chest meet, or the elbow and wrist areas. To draw the armpit line where the joints connect like this, you need to know that the deltoid connects to the clavicle like this. The armpit line is visible between them, and the arm muscles are visible below that. You need to know this content to draw the armpit line correctly. People who do not know this might make the mistake of connecting the armpit line to the bottom of the arm. It should be drawn like this to be correct. So I do explain anatomy, but I do not explain it that much. This is because when we actually draw the body, even though we know there is the biceps, the triceps behind it, and various arm muscles, in this person who is exercising, those muscles are not clearly visible. Rather than that, learning the overall sense of proportion seems more important, especially for beginners. When drawing the legs, there is a line that connects from this protruding part of the pelvis to the knee. You can draw it like this. But it is not very visible to our eyes. The purpose of this line is just to remember that the indented part on the outer thigh line appears this way because of this line. It is drawn as a guideline for that, and this line is not clearly visible to our eyes. Now let us draw the next picture. Okay, this time I also start by drawing an ellipse first. And if you are not sure whether the rib cage is seen from below or from above, you can make various inferences. If you feel that the position of the clavicle is at the bottom of this ellipse, then in this case it is the view from above. But if you feel that the clavicle position is at the top, then this case is the view from below. And you can infer it in many ways. If the pants line also protrudes upward like this, it means we are looking slightly from below. Of course, the degree of bend between the rib cage and pelvis may be different, but when you make various inferences, you can think, this is the view from below. Then, after drawing the ellipse, lightly draw the bottom surface roughly and find the center line. The center line, since the arm is here, you can tell it is almost a side view, and you can draw the indented part like this. Next, roughly draw the waist and hips. After drawing the hips, I will draw the pelvis box on top of them. Because the back of the hips is visible in this drawing, it is an angle where the back of the pelvis is seen. And as I mentioned earlier, based on this belt line, you can think that the bottom of the pelvis box is slightly visible. Next, continue drawing the legs. Then if we connect it from the side view, like this part is the side. If we simply draw this as a box shape, you can see that it is a twisted form. This is also the view from below. Next, find the position of the shoulders. The left shoulder that is visible now shows the full circle, but the opposite right shoulder is hidden, so only a little is visible. Then it looks like this. Let me draw more of this picture as well. Because the face is also seen from below, the center line inside the circle bends upward like this. Shoulders. Please draw the center line with the feeling that it curves from the clavicle. I will draw the pelvis a little larger and then draw the legs. It can be drawn in this way. This time I will draw this pose. The method is the same. You can simply draw the upper body as an ellipse like this. The tilt is like this. And since we are looking from below, think about the bottom surface and roughly draw the bottom area. Then the moment you set the shoulder position, you can realize, this part is the side view. And you can also infer the tilt. Since this is a woman and the chest is protruding, I will also decide the position of the breast here. Next, I draw the waist area as a circle like this. I also draw the pelvis overlapping. For the pelvis, I can draw it as a box to match this tilt. The legs go under the pelvis box. Because this photo is taken from close-up, the leg area looks more exaggerated. Then the arm part like this as well. If the tilt continues like this, the elbow is located slightly above the navel. The navel is around here, and the elbow is a little higher than the navel position. Then the wrist is around the bottom line of the pelvis box. The left arm is not visible, only the fist is seen. I will also draw the face simply. When drawing the breast contour, I drew it roughly earlier. But since we are looking from below, you can draw the breast to match this curve. You can draw the breast to match here. And the bend of the waist area is always an important part. This part is really important. When the pelvis and rib cage connect, this bent part is very important. Then I will refine this drawing a little more. Usually when we draw a woman's breast, we draw the bottom part round like this. But when we look from below like this, we draw the breasts along this line of the rib cage to match it. The ribcage seems a little large, so I will reduce the size a bit. Then the indented part of the ribcage should be somewhere around here, right? But the indented part will not look like this shape. Even if there were no clothes, it would only be slightly visible like this. I draw the center line like this, and after thinking about whether the pelvis is coming forward overall, drawing it with more bend seems to fit better. Next, I draw the hips and legs. If you look here, you can see this curve is bent much more. Because the perspective is exaggerated, the legs look larger. But the curve on this side is bent less than the other side. This is because perspective is applied. So the left leg is in a shorter position. I will enlarge the canvas size and draw the legs. If the left leg is around here, the right leg, how should I draw it? You can exaggerate it up to about this much. When drawing the face, it can sometimes be a little difficult to apply the circle method. In that case, draw a basic ellipse first, then find this center line. And use the three-dimensional sense we have learned so far to draw it. I usually draw the bottom line of the chin without dividing it and just draw it all together. Instead, I think the chin is here. The nose is slightly above the middle between the chin and the eyebrows. The eye socket is here. Keeping the tilt in mind, I roughly place the eyes. You can draw the basic rough sketch like this. I will clean it up a little more neatly. I will also draw the clothes to match this. When drawing pants, many wrinkles appear in the crotch area. And if you clearly draw this seam line of the pants themselves will look much more three-dimensional. Since a lot of time has passed, I will draw just one more. First, I draw an ellipse. This is the ellipse that goes in here, right? Next, I find the shoulder position. If you are not sure about the angle of the ellipse, think about this wrinkle on the clothes and the shoulder position and draw it. You can think of this part as the bottom of the ribcage. The indented part of the ribcage seems to be at the back, so it is not visible. Next, I draw the breast contour. The breasts are not clearly visible now, but the bottom line of the breast will look like this. It is not this, but this shape. Next, here is the waist. The hips and pelvis are really large, right? It is very important to develop a sense of the overall size. After deciding the size, then you decide the angle. In this angled view, it seems a little difficult to figure out how to draw the pelvis as a box. When we draw the side view of the human body, we draw it like this. But actually, a box shape with the hip part protruding like this is more accurate. So when drawing this part as a box, first draw the bottom surface like this, then the side surface. And if you just draw the box as it is, the protruding part of the hips will not be expressed well. So sometimes I draw the pelvis box by making the bottom part larger. So I will draw it with the bottom of the pelvis box enlarged. I think drawing the pelvis box like this works. Then I continue by drawing both legs. Thinking about the hip line, I connect it to the thighs. The soles of the feet look quite large, right? I will refine this a little more. These lines visible on the clothes help a lot in creating a three-dimensional feel. The position of the rib cage and pelvis looks a little wider, so I will slightly raise the position of the pelvis. This is an angle that we do not easily see, right? Then I think it can be drawn like this. So in this session, I drew various poses together with you. I sometimes upload anatomy lectures, but I think this method is a more fun way to study the human body than anatomy lectures. When I used to study alone by looking at anatomy books, it was actually not fun at all. And I had no sense of why I had to draw anatomy this way, or how much I needed to know. So do not think of it as studying anatomy, just think of it as doing human body drawing and draw with the simple shapes. Then, when I look up anatomy only for the parts I do not know, studying human body drawing becomes much more enjoyable. Okay, I hope you had a fun time too, and next time we will draw various poses again. Then I will end this session here. Bye!